be without wasting my time and your time. All right. So when we talk about reproduction, so we must know that the reproduction, it is of two types, two major types of reproduction. The first one is the asexual reproduction and the second one is sexual reproduction. Now, asexual reproduction, it is the kind of reproduction in which only one parent is involved. That means it is uniparental, and in this case nor the gametes are formed and they are also not involved in the process. So the gametes, they are not formed as well as they are not involved. So only one parent is doing this reproduction. So this is known as uniparental kind. Then comes the sexual reproduction. In this case, both parents are involved, meaning the male and the female parents are involved, and the male and the female gametes are there, which are given rise by the male and the female, right? The male gives rise to the male gametes, female gives rise to the female gametes, and then those gametes fuse, and then that is how sexual reproduction takes place. So when we talk about the asexual reproduction, so it is the type of reproduction in which new individuals, they are produced from a single parent. That is, it is a uniparental kind of reproduction. In this case, meaning in the case of asexual reproduction, there is no gamete formation, there is no gamete fusion. Okay, none of anything related to the gamete is absent over here. And the offsprings, meaning the children that comes as a result of asexual reproduction, they are clones, meaning they are the exact copy of the parents. So they are clones. Now talking about the different types of asexual reproduction. So the first one that we have is fission. Now in the case of fission, there is only like one cell, and that one cell further splits into two cells. Sort of that one cell only is dividing into two daughter cells. Okay, now fission, it is further of two types, binary fission and multiple fission. Now, binary fission is the one in which the organism, first of all, what happens is the genetic material, meaning the DNA, it divides. Okay, and then the cell will divide. So first the DNA will divide, it will start reaching towards the opposite pole, and then it will just split into two. Like the DNA got divided into two, and then what will happen? Then the cell will divide, resulting into the formation of two daughter cells. So this is binary fission. Very commonly it takes place in the case of amoeba and paramecium. Then comes multiple fission. Now, binary fission is a normal method of reproduction in the case of amoeba or paramecium. It's not, you can say, unusual method. But when we talk about multiple fission, now multiple fission, it takes place in the plasmodium, which is a protozoan. Now, what happens in their case? Like whenever there is unfavorable conditions arising. Okay, whenever there is unfavorable condition. So in that unfavorable condition, what happens is that these organisms, such as the plasmodium, they make a cyst, sort of like a
Ma'am,
capsule structure. Yes.
what do you mean by unfavorable condition?
Unfavorable condition is when not enough nutrients are there, when not enough space is there, when not enough like appropriate temperature is there, meaning when the things according to the organism is not there. In that case, they form, like they do reproduction by this method. Okay, so what happens is that they form a cyst. A cyst formation takes place, and inside the cyst, many organism, like one organism is divided into many daughter cells. So all in all, many daughter cells are formed inside that cyst. Sort of just imagine it like they are accumulating the daughter cells in the time of unfavorable condition. Maybe the parent cell will die because of the like unfavorable condition. So what it is doing, it is ensuring that even if that parent cell dies, the daughter cells will further survive. Okay, so and then what happens, as soon as the favorable conditions come around, then the cyst would burst and release all of the different daughter cells. Okay, so one organism divides into many daughter cells and they are liberated or they are released on the onset of favorable condition. Meaning as soon as the favorable conditions would come around, then they will divide, like they will be released out. Clear? Multiple
Yes.
fission and binary fission, both the types of fissions are clear to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Then comes budding. Now, budding is that kind of a reproduction in which, like mostly bud is an outgrowth. So, on the body of the organism or on the cell of the organism, there is an outgrowth which is called as a bud. This outgrowth is present, and this outgrowth, like slowly it develops and, like lives on, like while being attached to the parent. And then once it matures, then it separates off from the parent and starts living an independent life. So the type of reproduction in which an outgrowth is present on the parent's body or parent cell is called as budding. And this takes place most commonly in Hydra yeast. Okay, Hydra and yeast. Now here what happens? The like in this method, a bud-like projection or outgrowth is formed on the body of the organism, on the body of the parent organism. Then the bud develops into a new organism. It then separates from the parent and forms an independent individual. So for a while, it will grow on the body of the parent only, but slowly it will detach from the parent's body and develop into an independent individual. Got it? Budding is
Yes.
clear? Okay. Then comes regeneration. Now, regeneration takes place in the case of planaria, hydra, and starfish. Now, in this, what happens? The organism, like if we cut the organism into 3 different parts, or 5 parts, or 6 parts, then each of those parts will develop into a new organism. Okay, that is regeneration. Like it regenerates. So, it is the ability to give rise to new individual organisms from its body parts. Clear? This takes place in planaria, hydra, starfish. Talking about spirogyra, in the case of spirogyra, fragmentation takes place. In this method, what happens is that the body of the organism, it splits into 2 parts, and then each of those 2 parts develop into the new organism. Like in this method, the body of the simple multicellular organism break up into fragments. And like when does this happen? So upon maturation, they would break into these fragments, and then each of these fragments will develop further into separate new individuals.
Ma'am,
How is this
what's the
different from
difference
that?
between the fourth and third one then?
Yeah, that was my question when I taught this in the batch also. So first you only tell me, then I'll tell you. There is a difference. That is why we are studying it separately.
Regeneration has 3 parts and fragmentation has 2.
No. As I told you, it can be 3 parts also. You can do 6 parts also. Then also each part will develop into a new organism. Read the text. Read this part. You people remember, students? The rest of the students, you remember the answer? Okay. Done reading it?
Yeah.
Okay, now read fragmentation.
Multicellular organism.
See, apart from that, I'll tell you now what the actual real deal is. See, the thing is that the regeneration, it is an ability. Just in case if the organism got cut, just in case if it got broken down, then each of those fragments will develop into new organisms. But in the case of fragmentation, it is a routine procedure. It is like when they'll mature, they'll break up, and each of the fragments will grow into the new individual. It's not the ability, it's the method. But here it's the ability. It doesn't mean that this is a proper asexual reproduction. No, they don't reproduce like this. But just in case, if someone went there and cut them into 20 pieces, each of those 20 pieces will develop into 20 organisms. Getting my point? So
Yes.
regeneration, see, I've star marked it. It is the ability. Whereas fragmentation, it is the method. It is a routine procedure. Got it?
Yes.
The rest of you, like again, it got clear to you?
Yeah.
Okay, very
Yes.
good. Now moving forward and talking about the next type of reproduction, that is spore formation. Now spore formation in this, like mostly this takes place in fungus, okay, in the fungi. Now what happens in the fungus, like rhizopus, which is the bread mold, like when our bread goes bad, the black fur like structures that develop on our bread, that is a rhizopus. It is a bread mold. Apart from that, there is another mucor, the whitish fungus that appears mostly on food. I had it on my cucumber uh, this morning. I saw it today. So like when our food goes bad, mostly it's because of fungus, right? So now in the case of fungus, their way of reproduction is that they form a swollen structure like this, and this is known as sporangia structure. Okay, and inside the sporangia there are multiple spores present. Multiple spores are present inside the sporangia. So this sporangia is a sac-like structure, and inside the sac-like structure there are multiple spores present. Now when these sporangia they burst, or whenever they come in contact with a moist surface, right? Mostly this sporangia will burst or release the spores outside, and as soon as the spores come in contact with the moist surface, it develops into a new individual. Got it? This is what spore formation is. Spores are formed inside a sac-like structure called as sporangia. Okay.
Okay.
But one more thing, students, there is a difference that here I am showing one, right? So it will be sporangium. And when I say sporangia, then that means plural. Always remember in biology, the words that end in bacterium, flagellum, sporangium, anything that ends in is usually singular. Okay, and anything that ends in a, like sporangia, then there is a flagella, like that means plural. Bacteria, plural. Okay, but nuclei, like nucleus, this one is singular and this one is plural. Okay, anything
So
that
sports are
yeah,
present everywhere.
spores, yeah, mostly they are present everywhere, like there are some spores of fungus that are present in the air also. We can't see it, but it is present in the air as well. Okay. That is why, this is the only reason, since they are present everywhere, this is the only reason why our food goes bad. Whenever moisture is coming, then the fungus would grow. That is why we have refrigerator at home, right? We use refrigerator so that inside the refrigerator, the atmosphere is very cold and it's very dry, but outside it's humid and very, you can say, sticky or moist, because of which the fungus gets a chance to reproduce and then they grow a lot. But inside the fridge, nothing bad happens. Yeah. Now moving on to vegetative propagation. Now vegetative propagation, in this what happens? Certain parts of the plants are used for reproduction. Okay. It is sort of a little bit like regeneration, a very tiny bit. What happens is that, like the plants, some cells are present in them that have the potential of like dividing a lot. Okay, so we use the plant parts or vegetative parts. See, vegetative, I'll tell you this thing. See this. There are two types of cells in the plant's body or in the animal's body. The first kind of cell is the reproductive cells that are directly involved in the reproduction process. And the second type of cells are the body cells or the vegetative cells in the case of plants. This was in the case of animals, and vegetative cells in the case of plants. Meaning these cells, they are not participating in reproduction in any way possible. Rather, they are like participating in normal physiological processes. Just like in us, we have the skin cells, right? We have the this thing. The dead cells are also there on our body, or the blood cells are there, right? But do these cells perform in reproduction? No.
No.
The only cells that do are sperm and ova. So those are like our reproductive gametes, or they are the reproductive cells. So just like that, vegetative cells are the body cells of the plants. So when we take that body cell or the vegetative cell, such as the root has no function in reproduction, leaves has no function, stems have no function. So without the use of the reproductive organs, the other body organs of the plant, when we are using those organs or structures such as roots, stems, or leaves, then that is known as vegetative propagation, growing a plant from these structures. Okay. So, for example, if we are using the roots, right, if we are using the roots for vegetative propagation, so that is done in the case of dahlia plant and sweet potato. If we are using the stem, then we can use, like in the stem there is a structure called as rhizome, which is of ginger. Tuber is of potato. You, like many of you might have seen those eyes or a tiny leaf that comes on potato, tiny structures. That is a tuber. Okay, that is the like eye of the potato, and that can be used for vegetative propagation. Then bulb of onion. And what happens in the margin of the bryophyllum leaves, there are certain buds present that can grow into a new plant. So we are using roots, stems, and leaves, and we are not using the reproductive organs. So that is why it is known as vegetative propagation. Got it, students?
Yes.
Now see, apart from that, there are three more methods. These are artificial methods of vegetative propagation: cutting, layering, and grafting. These are the artificial methods. See this thing. In the case of cutting, what happens is that we cut a certain part of the plant and we take that cut part and plant it in a soil, and then that will develop into a whole new plant. So this is the case of cutting. Okay, you cut it and then propagate it. Then comes layering. So you took a branch of the tree or the plant and you put it towards the soil for a little while. So the part that will be coming in contact with the soil, that will develop roots, and then it will go up and become a whole new plant. Okay, like from that one different plant only. So that is layering. And lastly, there is grafting. So we cut the plant angularly, like at an angle or at an axle, and then we like do it. For example, you took one plant for one variety and you took another plant, and then you join their cut parts together, and then you wrap it around. So all the vegetation will take place. So that is grafting. Got it, students?
Yes.
Yes.
So these are the methods that we as humans are doing, right? So this is the artificial method of reproduction or vegetative propagation. Now moving forward, lastly, let's talk about the advantages of sexual reproduction, like asexual reproduction. Like we know that it's not better than sexual reproduction, right? It's not better than sexual reproduction is always better than asexual reproduction. But there are some pros to asexual reproduction as well. First of all, it takes less time. It's not a very complicated process. It's not a very lengthy process. So it takes very less time. Apart from that, it is less complicated if you compare it with the sexual reproduction. It is much less complicated. And it does not involve gamete formation. And that is why it takes less time. Apart from that, we know that the offsprings that are formed, they are the exact copy of the parents. So it preserves the parental character. Why? Because clones are produced. Clear? But in the case of sexual reproduction, it will take more time. It is more complicated and gamete formation is involved, and it creates variation, meaning new characters are introduced in the sexual reproduction. That is why sexual reproduction is advantageous over asexual. Meaning, if someone would ask you which type of reproduction is better, so you'd say sexual reproduction. Clear? But again, asexual reproduction has its own perks also. Any doubts in asexual reproduction, students?
No.
Okay, very good. Now, Zainab, you have to write down till budding. So you do it quickly. Okay, and then you'll continue with the rest of the class.
So, ma'am, wedge propagation is used by all the plants.
No, only a certain type of plants usually. You might have seen people use like they cut like slantly cut the stem of the rose and plant it on another rose plant, right? They do so as to mix their characters or to get better character. Okay, there are some plants with which it can be very advantageous, but in some plants it would fail because it is a chance process. We are doing it on our own since it is not natural. So it may happen also, may not happen also. Okay. Yes. Now you people can switch off your videos and write down comfortably.
Done. 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 Done.
Okay, now students, everyone, you people, note down. Okay, and see, students, now you don't have to hurry. Read it, understand it, and then take it down on your notebook. Okay, don't be in a hurry. And if you have any doubts, ask.
Done.
Everyone's done?
Yeah.
All of you are done, students?
Yes.
Okay.
Done.
Done.
Everyone's done, students?
Yeah.
If there's anyone left, please tell me, okay? Don't just sit there.
I'm done.
Everyone's done? All of you are done, students? Yes or no?
Yes.
Done.
All of you are done, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, does anyone have any doubts up until now?
No.
So you write it till the reproductive organs, and that is it. Done, students?
Yes.
All
No.
right. Okay. Okay. Okay.